Hey everyone, Simon here. Today we're going to talk about Punarvasu nakshatra. Now, there are a lot of videos about nakshatras out there, but I bet you didn't know that Punarvasu nakshatra was the nakshatra rising when the first atomic bomb was tested. If we pull up that chart, it was called the Trinity test. You can see here, let's make sure that I'm sharing. The exact time was taken, even to the second, for this test. And now there's a movie coming out this weekend called Oppenheimer, about the life of Oppenheimer, the scientist who developed and created the culture and so forth for the atomic bomb. And there are a lot of documentaries and such coming out about this. And so I was watching one of them, and they mentioned the time. So anytime someone mentions a specific time, a bell rings, right? Oh, I have to pull the chart. So I pulled the chart, and this is what we get. Now, this may surprise you because some of you think, oh, Punarvasu, it's a very benefic nakshatra. It's great for wealth, which is true. It's great for, it's very positive. It's Shakti's Vasutva Prapana Shakti, the power to obtain the good material things in life, like a good position, money, wealth, and so forth. So it's a great nakshatra for all of those things, right? Aditi is the goddess who is the mother of all the divine beings. And yet, Punarvasu, just like every other nakshatra, has a dark side. And the dark side is, first of all, how do we know when the dark side comes out, when it doesn't? For every nakshatra in your horoscope, planets can invoke its high side or its dark side. How does that happen? When a planet sits in a nakshatra, it will activate it. So if Saturn sits in nakshatra, say Magha, it will activate the negative side of that. Your lineage will somehow become a problem. Magha is all about your lineage. Your family lineage will end in some way, or there will be problems. You'll be outcast or something. If a benefic sits in a nakshatra, it activates it in a positive way. If you have Venus in Rohini, you will have creativity galore. But if a malefic aspects a nakshatra, so let's say we did the example of Saturn in Magha. What if Saturn were at 5 degrees Aquarius, where he would aspect directly into that nakshatra by degree? So if Saturn were 20 degrees Aquarius, he wouldn't be aspecting Magha. He'd be aspecting the next nakshatra, Purva Poguni. You get it? But at 5 degrees Aquarius, he would not only be activating the nakshatra he sits in, okay, which would be what? The Nishta, but he would also be activating Magha, and activating in this case as a malefic and bringing out their dark side. Okay, so these are little secrets I'm sharing with you on how, even if a nakshatra is not occupied in your chart, even if that nakshatra is not occupied, it may actually play a role in your life. And I'm going to move my fat face here out of the way so you can see. It may still play a role in your life by virtue of the fact that it's activated by benefics or malefics. However, in this case, we're going to talk about Punarvasu nakshatra today. Punarvasu is directly activated. Why? Because the ascendant occupies it. Now, there's something called focal nakshatras. We cover this in our course, by the way. So I guess the sponsorship here brought to you by decodingvedicwisdom.com. There is a course on nakshatra secrets on my site, Decoding Vedic Wisdom, where we talk about all of this, how to know what is the most important nakshatra in your chart. I'll give you some clues today. How to know this stuff, which nakshatras are activated, and then how to know all the little inside secrets. There's a reason we call it nakshatra secrets, because you're not going to find most of this info online. Okay, but back to this. So in that class, we talk about how to find your focal nakshatra. What is the nakshatra that keys your life? Could be one, it could even be two. Out of those, the candidates are your Lagna nakshatra, your moon nakshatra, your Lagna Lord nakshatra, and then even the sun nakshatra. So those, you could take those four. If you're running a dasha, you can even take the nakshatra of the dasha lord. Okay, so those are the candidates. Now, how do you pinpoint which is the focal one? Well, basically, it's going to be the one that's most activated by other planets. So the one that's got more focus, more activation. And you'll have to look around in your chart and see which of these focal nakshatras are most active, whether it's by benefics or malefics. So coming back here to Punarvasu, people think, again, Punarvasu is very benefic. It is. It's movable, swift. It's good for events, for traveling, all that kind of stuff. But any nakshatra, I don't care. It could be the most benefic. It could be Pushya nakshatra. If it's afflicted, its dark side will come out. Well, wait a minute. What's the dark side of Pushya? Pushya is good for everything. Not for everything. Pushya natives will put their children in harm's way. That's all I'm going to say for now, especially if that nakshatra is afflicted. So back to Punarvasu. Now, Punarvasu is interesting because the first clue we get to the fact that it can have something to do with weapons is the fact that it is a what? Ayuddha Drekana. It is in the last 10 degrees of Gemini, which is an armed Drekana. Okay, so it has to do with weapons, literally. The second clue comes from its symbolism, a quiver of arrows, and a quiver that is eternally renewed, meaning those arrows keep getting built. And of course, if you know from the Mahabharata, the great war long ago, arrows can symbolize mass destruction. It's not just an arrow that goes through one person. Both Karna and Arjuna had arrows that were extremely powerful. They could destroy countless numbers of people. So when we say arrows, we're meaning missiles of some sort. So Punarvasu now in two ways has connotations with weapons. And in this chart, in particular, because it is also connected to what? The eighth lord, the lord of death. And isn't it interesting that Oppenheimer recited the verse from the Bhagavad Gita when he saw the explosion? And here is that verse. I had to stop and find it for a second. Here it is from chapter 11, where Arjuna sees. So Arjuna is begging Krishna, please show me your true form. Only then I will be convinced that you're the real deal, right? So Krishna rolls his eyes and unfurls his true self. And he says, Kalos mi lokakshaya krit pravridho lokam. Let's see, it should be lokan. Lokan samhartum miha pravritaha. This is why I don't like transliterations. I have to find it in the Devanagari. Lokam samahritum iha pravritaha. Rite api tvam na bhavishyanti sarve ye avastitaha pratyanikeshu yodaha. This is no bueno. Let me find another site here. 1 second. Okay, this is better. So here we go. So kalos mi lokakshaya krit pravridaha, really. Lokan samahartum miha pravritaha. Rite api tvam na bhavishyanti sarve ye avastitaha pratyanikeshu yodaha. So kalos mi, I am become time, actually, is what he says. But time in the sense of that all-devouring time. Loka kshaya krit, the causer of the kshaya, the wasting away or destruction, you can say, of the world. Pravridaha, the great Lokan samahartum miha pravritaha. And basically, even with you or without you, this world is going to go. Anyway, the great movement of time and the great movement of time's creation and destruction of all worlds. And of course, Krishna sees this and he practically goes nuts. He says, no, go back to your normal form. I can't take it. By the way, Krishna was not a wuss. He was anything. I mean, Arjuna was not a wuss. He was a great hero, and even he couldn't take it. Anyway, so what does this mean for Punarvasu nakshatra? All of this is a roundabout way of telling you that the power of Punarvasu nakshatra is the power of great organizations. To plug into Punarvasu is like to go to work for Google, for Microsoft. So one of these big things, and become part of this large community, to become part of a political party. So it has to do with great giant families. So, right, Aditi, the goddess mother, gave birth to all the devas. Big family, right? You can say, Kennedys or whatever. Big institutions as well. Punarvasu also has to do with technology. This is one of its big meanings. So you see Punarvasu, think computers, tech. Now, generally, it's the positive side of technology, right? It's software, engineering, yada, yada. But when malefics are involved, then it can be the destructive side of technology. Now, it can also be neutral. So another aspect of technology is great cranes and bulldozers, giant projects, building cities, tearing down the old and building up the new. Okay, this is all Punarvasu. So sometimes you'll see people with Punarvasu who are construction workers or what do you call them? Not managers, but contractors. Punarvasu also rules that. Why? Because they also work with their hands. They carry weapons, right? Right? Drills and things like that. So Punarvasu has to do with construction, building big projects, and so forth. But in this chart, it is uncanny how powerfully this very benefic, you would think benefic nakshatra shows up both as the lagna and right next to it, the eighth lord Saturn, Kalosmi, I have become. And what is Saturn? He is Lord Yama. When your time has come, his brother is Lord Yama, but he's associated with it. When your time has come, he comes and takes you. So he is death, right? The other interesting thing here is that, what is the other interesting thing? Let me find a couple of things. So I'm sure you have questions. If you have questions about this, don't hesitate to leave me a comment. The sun also occupies Punarvasu. Sometimes it's good to turn on your nakshatras in the. This is why I love Parashara's light. I mean, I suppose every professional software has this, but you can turn on the nakshatras, and I would have missed the sun in Punarvasu because, of course, it extends to 3 degrees 20 minutes. So the sound here also is K. K. I wonder if that means anything. K. K-E. Huh. Anyway, I'm just I'm wondering aloud, brainstorming aloud, just as you are, because I didn't plan this video. I watched the documentary and I pulled the chart and I said, hey, let's talk about this nakshatra and what it has to do. So, of course, after that first nuclear test, what happened? Every nation started to create, every big nation, this Russia, and then, of course, the other ones started to create nuclear weapons. So there is that quiver of arrows that gets constantly refilled. In this case, in a negative way, right? Because now the arsenal starts getting stocked, nuclear arsenal. But in the end, Punarvasu does have to do, it is in the end a fairly benefic nakshatra, even though in this case it was the cause of death of hundreds of thousands of people, mostly instantly. In the first bomb strike, 70,000 people were killed immediately, and another 40,000 in the days that followed. So it's not a joke. This is powerful, powerful technology. And we typically associate negative events with the quote unquote negative nakshatras like Mula or Purva, Bhadrapada, and so forth, which are, difficult nakshatras. But even the positive nakshatras can have a dark side. And that dark side, it's interesting, the sun just went down. And that dark side will come out when those nakshatras are influenced by malefic planets, especially if those malefic planets, as in this case, are the lords of houses 6, 8, or 12. So another nakshatra here we see activated by the moon is Hasta. And now Hasta is also a benefic nakshatra, and it is a swift nakshatra, light rather, nakshatra, and Punarvasu is a movable nakshatra. So both of these are considered auspicious for timing events and so forth. But Hasta nakshatra also has the association with Surya or Savitri, and who is the deity. And it is said that the bomb that landed had the heat of the sun. And the sun, of course, is the source of a number of weapons, even in the Mahabharata and so forth. Now, I don't mean to associate this nakshatra with such negative things, but given the power of the ascendant and the negative power of the ascendant here, we can perhaps make that leap. And it's interesting here that neither the ascendant nor the lord of the ascendant receive any benefic aspect in this chart. It is all malefic. The ascendant lord is with Pluto and the sun, and the ascendant itself is with Rahu and Saturn as the 8th lord. So what else did I want to say? The final thing I wanted to say, the context of why I bring up Hasta is that the Gayatri mantra, which is a mantra to the sun, is particularly useful if you have Hasta prominent. But even beyond the Gayatri mantra and prayer in general is extremely powerful if you have Punarvasu placements. So if you have Punarvasu as a focal nakshatra, the power of your intention, or even the power of prayer without intention, simply for the act of praying, can manifest. Because now, why is that? Am I just making this up? It's part of the story of Aditi, who prayed. Aditi was the mother of all the gods, right? So she's a divine being, and yet she prayed to the infinite divine to grant her a boon, to save her sons, and her prayer was granted. And so this incredible power of renewal is possible with Punarvasu Nakshatra, in that whatever we set our minds to with Punarvasu, you can do it. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger has a lot of Punarvasu in his chart, and he's like, you can do it. Don't sleep faster, right? This idea that whatever you set your mind to, you can accomplish. Okay, here's a chart of Arnold. I just brought it up so you can see what I'm talking about. And here is Punarvasu rising, and Mercury in Punarvasu. So the ruler of the ascendant. But in this case, Mercury is the ruler of the ascendant, and that ascendant and Punarvasu Nakshatra are aspected by Jupiter, a benefic. So it's quite the opposite. In this case, neither is Jupiter the eighth lord or anything like that. We have the lord of the ascendant in the ascendant. And so, of course, what do we know about Arnold? He married into a big family, didn't he? The Kennedys. He was part of a big political movement in that he became the governor in the Republican Party. So they're the big folks. We are the nakshatras that rule us. We are, or we grow within the greenhouse that is built for us. And what we as astrologers see is that, you know, the shelter of the greenhouse. We see what kind of growth is possible. So he grew within the constructs of his chart. And of course, he was a very Punarvasu kind of guy. Now, is he techie? Not that I know of, but he was very handy with weights, and of course, in his movies, he had weapons, right? So, but they're play weapons, they're toy weapons. And because this nakshatra now is benefic, it's giving its full benefic aspect. And of course, for him, everything is possible because he has the focus. And when he sets his mind to something, he accomplishes it. And he can't understand why people can't do that. You get it? But this is not someone you take advice from, because unless you have that nakshatra or that kind of configuration, but if you do, then you don't need his advice. But unless you have it, then it's more difficult for people to do what he does, because they won't necessarily have this configuration. And in fact, I'm diverging here a little bit, but knowing him a little bit, people, bodybuilders who have followed his routines, the routines in his book and the actual routines that he followed, have become completely broken down, and they've lost weight. They've lost muscle instead of gaining muscle. So what he was able to do, by harnessing this amazing power of this nakshatra. But not everyone can. If you don't have this nakshatra, or if you don't have a strong lagna like this, watch out. But the incredible power of Punarvasu is there to be harnessed by anyone. But be careful if it is a dark, if it is the dark side of that nakshatra that is activated, because that power may potentially be unleashed for destruction. Okay? If you have any questions, let me know. This is a powerful topic, but Jyotisha describes all life, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And through the lens of the nakshatras, we can gain a lot of insights into what is happening at any given time, right? If you plan let's say you planned, a wedding or something when a nakshatra, a bad nakshatra, right? Bad star rising, bad moon rising, then you can expect that event won't be as fruitful as if you had planned it when a good star, a good nakshatra is rising. Good means activated by benefics, and so forth. And in the same way, the difficult nakshatras like Purva Bhadrapada can become useful. You can become a great designer or director or visual artist with Purva Bhadra, especially benefics activated. Okay, so don't despair. Even the difficult nakshatras have a light side. That's the flip side of this. The good nakshatras have a dark side, but the bad ones also have a light side. All right, maybe we can explore that another time. Let me know in the comments if you have questions or issues, and we'll see you in the next one. Namaste.